Welcome everyone to sermon preparation. This is an opportunity for us to look at the readings for this coming Sunday, to reflect on them, to find themes and special ideas that are being revealed to us through God's Word. This coming Sunday is the fourth Sunday of Ordinary Time, Year B. So let's have a look at the readings, shall we, for this coming Sunday. The first reading is from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 18, verses 15 to 20. The second reading is a continuation of St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. It's chapter 7, verses 32 to 35. And then the Gospel is Mark's Gospel, of course. Chapter 1, verse 21 to 28. Clearly, we're in the very early stages of Mark's Gospel. You will remember a couple of Sundays ago, we read the very first part of the Gospel. And Mark told us that this was the gospel of Jesus Christ. He now sets about sort of giving us the reason for writing the gospel, writing about Jesus. Why is this person important? Why should Mark bother to spend time telling us about him? And so Mark is sort of emphasizing the authority of Jesus, that he's not just some nobody, that he is somebody special. And so in our gospel today, we have a sense that Mark is conveying the authority and more especially the teaching authority of Jesus. And that authority, that teaching authority, is also linked to healing. And so we have this story of Jesus in the synagogue at Capernaum. And I've been lucky enough to visit that synagogue in Capernaum. It's ruins now, of course, but to sit in that place where Jesus most probably sat and where he performed these miracles of healing and where he taught people. It's a goosebump making experience. But the story that we read today of the things that happened there in that synagogue on the shore of the Sea of Galilee is used by Mark to convey the fact that Jesus has authority. It may be quite simple, but it is a very direct authority. In many ways, that teaching, that authority, that healing is linked to the theme of prophecy. That Jesus is fulfilling the prophecies that the prophets of the Old Testament had proclaimed, but also that Jesus is a new prophet, a different kind of prophet. He doesn't quote laws and teachings of others. Instead, he speaks with his own authority. And because he is so simple and direct, that authority comes out very clearly. So there is a theme of teaching, of healing, and prophecy. And we see that in the first reading taken from the book of Deuteronomy. The writer here is hinting that Moses is the prophet. Why is he doing that? Because there obviously, I'm sure, must have been some problems with the prophets. They were not always doing their job properly, and people were beginning to doubt the work of some of the prophets. And so the author is trying to show that prophets like Moses can be trusted. those who say something and it happens. Those are real, genuine prophets. Clearly, prophets made people uncomfortable. They challenged them. And so that's why there was some disagreement and some tension surrounding prophets. Jesus made people uncomfortable. He challenged them. And prophecy does that. Prophecy certainly challenges us. It's important that it does too, because the Christian message, the gospel, is a challenge for all of us. I remember reading somewhere someone said, if the gospel doesn't challenge you, you haven't heard it yet. And I think that's very accurate. And prophets, the Old Testament prophets and Jesus, the prophet in the New Testament, one who proclaims God's will, leads people to God. That's the work of a prophet. Jesus and the Old Testament prophets challenged and made people feel uncomfortable. And they didn't apologize for that. They didn't sort of say, sugarcoat it or say, oh, well, we don't really mean that. No, they were clear. And of course, ultimately, that insistence on the will of God got Jesus into trouble, didn't it? And so our readings today for this Sunday are a little bit tense and difficult for us to read. Okay? So, the letter to the Corinthians, what we read last Sunday, is continued through to this Sunday. For St. Paul, baptism sets us free. We are free not because of following rules and regulations. We are free because of our faith in Jesus Christ. And baptism sets us free to live for Jesus Christ. This is a theme that occurs throughout St. Paul's writings, not only in this letter to the Corinthians. Go and read chapters 4 and 5 of his letter to the Galatians, for example. He talks about remaining faithful to the Jewish laws and regulations, especially surrounding circumcision, and saying, well, it's not those that set us free. That's not those that justify us and make us right with God. It is our faith. And that comes out again in this letter very clearly. And because we are free, we live in a certain way. And so there is a morality here in this letter, an ethics based on our faith in Jesus Christ. An ethical call for us to live our lives according to our faith, not because of rules and regulations. And that also is a challenge for us, isn't it? Sometimes we think it might be easy if the rule says this, I can do it, and the rule says I don't need to do it, well then sometimes we like that. It's easier to be governed by rules. It's more difficult to live according to the spirit of our baptism, the call of God, because that's not always so clear. But we are called to live our lives because of our faith. Okay, so there's some thoughts for this coming Sunday, the fourth Sunday of Ordinary Time. I look forward to seeing you at Mass. I hope that until then you'll be safe, that you look after yourself, and that you'll open your hearts to God's teaching. God bless everyone. Bye-bye.